The journalists came down from the ivory tower and went to the town square where people were and listened to them. And that kind of journalism was necessary. It's public service, basically. My name is Orla Borg. I'm head of the so-called fellowship program at Constructive Institute in Denmark. Constructive Institute is a place where you educate journalists to become better and to do constructive journalism. I mean, you could say that there are three kinds of journalism. There's news journalism, breaking news, where you try to be fast and quick and where you very often are dramatic, where you tell what's going on. There's two, investigative journalism that talks about what went wrong, it happened yesterday, who's to blame for went wrong, and you have a focus on crooks and victims very often. Those two kinds of journalism are great, you need to do it, but if you only tell people what went wrong, how things went bad, you present the audience to a dysfunctional world. And people will have problem over problem over problem, and they will feel apathy because there is nothing they can do about it. So constructive journalism puts a third layer on the journalism we know, saying, all right, now I've understood we have a problem. We've described that. What can we do to solve the problem? Is there anybody out there who's found a solution to this problem? And then do reporting on that problem. So that's one thing constructive journalism does. This kind of journalism we don't want to sensationalize, and we don't want to only present the problems of the world, but we'd also like to see if there are any solutions out there and give nuances and give hope. For instance, climate. If you only report on things that go bad with the climate, the temperature is rising much more than it should, people will say, well, what can I do? There's nothing to do, everything is shit. If that's what they do, they disconnect from democracy. So what constructive journalism could do would be, all right, we've got the problems, but here's somebody who's got an idea of how to solve it one way or the other. Here's somebody else who's got an idea how to solve it, and they actually proved that it worked. Maybe we can use that in other places. We journalists, we are a profession. We know best what people need because we've had an education and work for journalists so many years. And that's what we've been doing. We've been sitting out in our tower telling people down there what they should know. When COVID came, that changed. The journalists came down from the ivory tower and went to the town square where people were and listened to them. And that kind of journalism was necessary. It's public service, basically. It was necessary during COVID, and I think it's become more and more common to do so because we understand that we're there to serve the people. All TV stations, at least in the Scandinavian countries, they would do a TV show where ordinary people could write their question to the TV host, the journalist, who then posed the questions to the COVID experts and gave an answer to the public. One is, don't ever forget to do news journalism and investigative journalism. Always do that because that's necessary. Second wish is, don't fall in love if you describe a possible solution. Don't fall in love with the solution. Have the arm's length that any good journalism should have. Be critical. Ask critical questions to the possible solutions before you air it. That's just good, plain, ordinary, great journalism.